Some endings feeling warm. This tune feels like the lights go out. Richard Boone with strong heart of have gun. Will play paladin with calm, charm silent danger. He could convey a narrative with one eyebrow. So when his final episode hits strangely hard, the pace feels slower. Silences sound louder. You notice every glance. Stop, like show is holding breath. Knowing it's the last ride makes it hard to witness, even for optimistic supporters. Ready, because you're viewing a touching goodbye. Richard Boone lived life with guts, talent, and surprises. Rewind with us from the start. Meet his loved ones and say goodbye. War that changed everything and Los Angeles roots. The second musical child of Cecile Beckerman and Kirk E. was Richard Allen Boone, born in Los Angeles. Boone, corporate lawyer. Mother was Jewish, daughter of immigrants from Russia. Boone was a distant descendant of Squire Boone, the brother, Boone, frontiersman. California native and Hoover graduate, Glendale High School. He attended Stanford University in Palo Alto afterward. Alto and joined Theta Chi, but failed. Later, the 1951 Valley Times detailed a crazy Stanford prank at that time. A realistic dummy was sent to Boone and some fraternity guys as a prank. Called a friend and urged him to rush over, hid the dummy in plants, and pushed it into the roadway. They thought the friend's Mrs. Herbert Hoover's automobile arrived. When her automobile hit the dummy, she panicked, thinking she hit a real person. She slipped in the chaos, sprained her ankle. A Stanford investigation found the jokesters were Stanford kids wasting their showmanship. Out of school, Boone joined an artist colony. In music, he still wanted to be an artist. His school was Los Angeles. Art Students League Stanford and Chouinard Art Institute fantasies of global fame painter. The world changed. Boone joined the U.S. Navy in 1941 and served on 3 Pacific ships during World War II. He saw battle as an opportunity. Grumman TBF Avenger tail gunner, air crewman, and ordnance man, petty officer first class, retiring from torpedo bombers. Military life didn't suit painting, so he wrote. Author of short tales copying Dos Passos and Hemingway. But he felt his dialogue was weak. That urge to understand communication would softly lead him to act, and then to calm control observe in his final films. Stage to live TV, Boone pursued theater early on. Young dude, he attended Virginia Atkinson referred him to the San Diego Army and Navy Academy in Carlsbad, California. Theater. He studied acting in New York on the GI Bill after the war. He studied at the Actors Studio and the neighborhood playhouse to observe professional actors that made music talk sound genuine. Learning the ropes, he studied with Martha Graham and Sanford Meisner. Once he realized, he switched to full-time music acting since he was talented. Television captivated him. Fast too. From 1949, he worked on anthologies such Actors Studio, Climax, General Electric Theater, and Suspense. He tried The Front Page, a 30-minute CBS play-based show, is more regular by Ben Heck and Charles MacArthur. 1949, 1950. The early television years were dramatic because of music, Boone remarked. In subsequent Times Advocate stated in an interview, from 1947 to 1950, actors, directors, and cameramen studied together, pioneering the medium. Immediacy made acting special. Cameras were since there were no retakes. It was choreographed with split-second timing for live broadcast, tremendously exciting. He also revealed the grind's reality. Had 2 live shows. After World War II, I was thrilled to perform for $15 per concert in New York. Get money. Boone was also impressing on stage. He debuted on Broadway in 1947 as Medea with Judith Anderson and John Gielgud, and it performed 214 times. Then Macbeth in 1948. Martin Ritt directed The Man on Broadway in 1950, starring Dorothy Gish, had 92 shows. He was developing discipline, Broadway, and live TV pressure. His final episode felt weighty because of that discipline. Even at calm moments, you can sense the craft. The Fox years soar. Boone broke during a screen test. Aaliyah Kazan used Bunto given actress lines during Louisis Milestone's film test. Milestone liked Boone's voice, but not the actress, so he called him Hollywood. Boone joined 20th Century Fox for 7 years. His film his 1951 debut in Milestones. The Halls of Montezuma was as a Marine. Officer. Fox kept him busy in military roles on Call Me Mr. Point 51 and The Desert Fox, Rammel's Story, 1951. Then it accelerated. He appeared in Montana Red Skies in 1952, Return of Texan, Kangaroo, and Way of Agucho, and his role in Kangaroo was considerably expanded from the script. He resumed in 1953 to excellent music in Man on a Tightrope, Vicky, City of Bad Men, and Under the 12-Mile Reef. He played Pontius Pilate in the Robe. First CinemaScope film. Only one scene, yet it worked because he gave instructions to Richard Burton's Centurion to crucify Christ. Boone then made two pictures. Four panoramic released by Fox, The Siege at Redriver and The Raid. 1954, he then boldly departed the studio, breaking music his way. Contract. Another important bond formed during this time. While filming, Boone met Jack Webb, a producer, at Montezuma. Starring in Dragnet. Boone appears in 1954's Dragnet. That link led to a TV position that changed his image. Around this period, the Los Angeles Times called Boone 20th Century Fox's new find and noted that he was from Los Angeles and a Broadway veteran with several credits of TV series. He gained momentum quickly, and the next turn made him famous. Medic westerns and personal life beneath the surface. Boone became popular in 1954, 1956, known for leading NBC's Medic. He played Dr. Conrad Steiner, introduces, narrates, and sometimes appears in episodes. The show emphasized medical processes and authenticity. Boone received a 1955 Emmy nomination for Outstanding Actor in a Regular Series. He recognized TV fame's tenacity. He told Paloma in 1956. Argus Courier, "People are making fun of me being in Medic. Understand why I don't laugh. I didn't play for 3 years. Anything but nasty males at 20th Century Fox because I rarely shaved. Medic did this for me. I'm choosing photos." Medic. Boone continued acting in films and TV guest roles. Westerns like 10 Wanted Men with Randolph Scott. His films include Without a Star and Robber's Roost, who played in Battle Stations, Star in the Dust, and Away All Boats. Guest starred on GE Theater, Lux Video Theater, Ford TV Theater, Hollywood Studio One, Climax. He performed Wuthering Heights at Matinee Theater in 1957. That year, he co-starred in The Tall T with Randolph Scott, one of his best films, with Ella Laner Parker and Lizzie, and caused trouble in the Garment Jungle. Boone already had a gun when Have Gun Will Travel arrived. Whole life of experience. Live TV pressure, Broadway discipline. His personal life involves studio picture pace and hit series interest. Life had changed too. Boone married 3 times to T.O. Jane Hopper 1937 to 1940, Mimi Kelly 1949, 1950. All of that history counts because when you reach his final Have Gun Will Travel episode, watching the conclusion of a character is like watching Boone's long journey. In the next chapter, goodbye becomes difficult, role that made him famous nationwide. Richard Boone's next breakthrough was Have Gun Will Travel. Brought him national fame as Paladin, an intelligent but tough enough to endure late 19th century West. The fact that Randolph Scott was offered the show initially made it even more intriguing. It down and gave Boone the script while their team was working on 10 Wanted Men revolutionized everything when the show It became one of TV's biggest shows. Not simply another Western from 1957 to 1963. And the TV version was ranked number 3 or 4 in Nielsen ratings during its first 4 seasons. His work was immediately noted, earning him Emmy nominations in 1959.1960, bolstering his reputation as a serious actor who could carry a show. The idea helped. Paladin was a gentleman, investigator and hired gunfighter, mercenary who explored the old world West, solved other people's problems for high payments, usually $1,000 per project. He also helped the underprivileged for free when they needed it. That equilibrium made him feel more than a hired gun. Him feel like a coded guy. Once viewers got used to it, Paladin never made problems easy, so he kept coming back. Guys and bad guys. The emotional weight builds near the conclusion. Paladin's identity once the hat came off. Boone embraced the difference. When not investigating a case, he lived at the hotel. San Francisco's Carlton lived in Bon Viv like a businessman. He played the piano, wore tailored outfits, and drank expensive wine. He was well-educated and could attend operas and other cultural events. He quoted great literature, philosophy, scripture, and case law. Multiple languages, and was an outstanding chess, poker, and swordsman. He even trained in several episodes, include Kung Fu in San Francisco. In addition, he was president of the San Francisco Stock Exchange Club, but the job changed him. Paladin donned dark Western wear and went into danger. The main weapon was a bespoke 0.45 Colt single-action Army revolver. The platinum chest knight insignia hung from a black pistol belt and was in a black holstered lever-action Marlin rifle with knight image, and often a little daring or hidden. He distributed a business card and got renowned gun will travel card with white knight chess piece and cable paladin in San Francisco. A close-up of that card was used as a title cards between scenes, and time hints made the environment feel it was set after the Civil War, and one episode even gives A2 Season 5 episode set the story in July 3rd, 1879. Paladin had a deep background, too. The series called him a West Point dueling champion. Graduate and Union cavalry officer during the Civil War. In one episode, he claims to be from Boston. I was Thebes dressed Scala Square bouncer. That made him feel special, full human, not a TV cutout. So when the show reaches its goal, you feel like you're viewing a man's final pages. Entire life. Boone's voice on Paladin's success. At the start, several fans thought Boone was treating Paladin like a one-note hero. One letter entered the Ventura County Star free. Press asked Boone why, and he was direct: actors must eat. Thus I changed characters for economic reasons. He also mentioned without disrespecting Medic. He appreciated it for introducing him and thought it helped television. He stated why he saw this new Western as a larger chance. Boone wrote a 1958 Wellsville composition after playing Paladin for a year. Daily Reporter described his weird TV debut as the Man in Black remembered CBS and advertising execs seeing the pilot in a Madison Avenue screening room. Someone said, "Say that damn thing. Doctors can ride horses." Boone said Observer only knew him as they had never seen Dr. Steiner as Paladin. He also discussed the role's acting benefits, always seeking a shift, and the more meteoric the role, the better. Actors feast. He added something important to the show's vibe. You study it closely. He felt right after a year as Paladin, but he said something similar in 1957 to the Paloma Argus Courier, describing entering Paladin's style. This attire makes me feel amazing. He described that world's elegance and Paladin's humor and love of quotes. The creator's goal was achieved when he declared Paladin was a pro. He hit someone with one gunshot, stated that they sought a sophisticated killer as distinct as from other Westerns. Boone also discussed Paladin's development and highlighted to his own contribution. In 1959, he said the initial script by Herb Meadows and Sam Rolfe, but character became, he said he added humor and softened Paladin. Focus on money, widen his worldview, and include touching passages. He also mentioned that Onishu's scripting, he suggested trying to make anything work because he understood the program and the persona. He said, I once considered writing. Concept of writing but lacks talent or ability. He heard that he lacked the patience to write a line and evaluate it. Directing was more creative than acting in terms of camera, and acting was more satisfying. That he directed 3 episodes of the show, which proves he was more than just an actor. That he shaped the pistol. That makes the parting feel permanent, even more personal. Paladin's survival. Variety one major issue with a long-term project. Boone warned about boredom in his series had varied in films, Broadway, and live TV, that being the repeating a character could have been frustrating. Paladin, the most dangerous foe, might lethargy. Boone predicted that General Ennui would eventually. He sought strategies to keep alert in 1959 during the show's run. Returning to Broadway, he played Abraham Lincoln in The Rivalry for 81 performances. He spoke to in 1960 about how theater employment broke him from the Paladin routine. He told the San Francisco Examiner that Broadway was a pleasant diversion from his routine, that not performed on Broadway in 9 years, and was worried about his abilities. The run eliminated those anxieties, and he said, now I'm hungry for more. Also challenged himself by directing Have Gun episodes, because the show required aid with Domain director Andy Claglin couldn't do every episode. Boone reported using Ida Lupino and Buzz Coolidge as directors, but the show needed a reliable stopgap because they couldn't always get them. Boone claimed that being shackled to the mast made him that halt gap, that's striking because it depicts the stress of protracted TV seasons. Boone moved in other ways during the series. He starred in Playhouse 90 and I Bury the Living in 1958. U.S. Steel Hour and 1960 TV movie The Right Man. He had a 1959 Alamo appearance as Sam Houston, released later. He starred in 1961's A Thunder of Drums, had a lighter public side, and narrated John Brown's Body on TV. He appeared on What's My Line as a mystery guest and panelist, chatted to presenter John Charles Daly about their front-page days. Boone wanted to maintain success, not sleepwalk through it. His final episode is weighty because you can tell how much he fights to keep the work fresh. He wanted to keep the show from slacking. Leave the System and Richard Boone Show. Boone thought, even as the gun traveled, regarding the future and stated his desire to avoid repetition. He was requested for another Western when this one ended in 1959. Why repeat myself? He said he wanted to expand his literary and creative horizons and not be CBS president, not care what they gave him to play another Western. He wanted integrity, not wealth. He warned that success's sweet anesthesia can make you forget why you became an actor. He also said his wife and son were most important to him. He valued his son's future and wanted him to be proud of his work. How he approached Have Gun, because the team never used cliché-listed lines used to justify bad programs, he drew the line. They tried to always put on a great show. Boone was also thinking carefully about the show's length. He wanted Have Gun to end after his 5-year contract because avoid diminishing returns, but CBS's deal was too big. Ignore. He returned for a 6th season, but selling his independence was costly. Financial interest in reruns. CBS paid him $1.3 million over. Boone admitted leaving $400,000 in residuals after 20 years. Yes, and he kept telling himself, it's the year off miracles. He added that long-term payments helped protect most of the money from taxes. By 1962, Boone signed with NBC for an anthology series after Have Gun. Boone assembled a unique anthology called The Richard Boone Show. Repertory company of 15 actors who played different roles weekly. He produced the show and appeared in all 25 episodes, sometimes in major roles, sometimes small. April 1963, he told the Brooklyn Daily Eagle about his vision he said it was more like a workshop than a lab. He promised no pap and pablum productions. Creativity, and wanted something different, where story and characters were worked over like actors. Classes would result in a true television play with the place. Ironically, the show was respected, winning a Golden Globe. Boone received his 4th Emmy nomination and 1964 Globe for Best Show. That also failed to survive ratings pressure in 1964, running NBC canceled it after 1 season. Opposite CBS's hit Petticoat Junction, Boone took it seriously, especially after learning by reading about it in Hollywood trade papers instead of being told. His reaction was harsh and clear. He blamed them for acting in the most chicken gutless way possible, the business side for squeezing creatives, and he hated to 3 years later. He has a creative idea, still felt the same, telling LA Times, harder and harder to do your best in TV. The move was more than professional. Became personal. Boone and his family moved to Honolulu after his weekly show ended. That move shows how tired he was of Hollywood, and you can feel the distance growing between Boone and his famous TV machine, which sets a serious tone for reflecting on Paladin and why the finale can seem different. Florida years, final roles, and his goodbye. Richard Boone kept active in Florida, but in a quieter way. Local way. When not acting, he kept the annual St. Augustine Cross and sword manufacturing. He also taught in the early 1970s. Tom Rohner, who created Flagler College, was known for his presence and leadership. According to Flagler Theater, Boone taught in 1973. Ran class like a professional master class, not an academic. Despite their initial nervousness, Nick Dionese remembered Boone as personable and plain-spoken. He even wore a vintage jumpsuit and sandals. Boone challenged pupils and offered them challenging roles, easing tension. They received critical yet constructive responses. Not insulting. He also believed in vintage music, saying he kept 1 foot in acting even then. Boone authored a newspaper column called it Around This Time. He contemplated history and change in 1974, noting, a lot has changed. Place between 1900 and World War I. Calling it tough. His films include The Great Niagara in 1974, the 1975 film Against a Crooked Sky, supported John Wayne again. He worked on God's Gun, 1976, The Voice Smo in 1977's cartoon The Last Dinosaur. The Big Sleep 1978 featured Hobbit, in 1979's Winter Kills and the Bushido Blade. Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, then his final award for Israeli cinema story, became personal. Rohner remembered Boone's diagnosis. Having throat cancer, he resisted therapy and became reclusive to avoid being remembered. Sorry. Boone died at home in St. Augustine on January 10, 1981. At 63, his remains were scattered in the Pacific Ocean off Hawaii. Now we want to hear why seeing his last Paladin episode feels so heavy. What Paladin moment has stuck with you the most? You think made it stick? When you replay the programs today, what minor which detail strikes you first? A face, a line, a pause, or music? Entirely. Comment below and like. Subscribe for more amazing Hollywood stories. Amazing history. See you later.